I, 22-year-old male, was born deaf and was never a candidate for hearing disease. I was taught American Sign Language, and my mom and other family members also learned it. This is the only way I can communicate. I don't lip read or anything like that. My dad wasn't in my life at all. When I was 9 years old, my mom started dating Tom, who had a 10-year-old son named Cole. It was clear from the start that Cole wasn't enthusiastic about us and had no interest in learning American Sign Language to communicate with me. Tom and my mom decided that we should all take family American Sign Language classes and learn together in a fun environment, which the classes happened to be. Cole had to be dragged to the classes, and he didn't participate willingly or eagerly. If anything, he intentionally did things wrong and made himself do worse than he naturally would, so he would be asked to participate less. However, he eventually started taking the classes seriously. My mom believed it was because he had truly bonded with me and now cared about communicating with me. But that wasn't the case. He had a new deaf friend at school whom he wanted to talk to. His motivation for learning American Sign Language stemmed from wanting to communicate with this new friend. Cole and I never talked enough for him to be motivated to learn, and he made many mistakes when communicating with me. But I noticed that his American Sign Language was flawless when communicating with his friend. It always felt strange living with someone who didn't want me around. My mom and Tom believed that we would eventually blend in as a family. I think there was a fight when Cole turned 17, and my mom and Tom wanted to go away for a weekend. I remember everyone seeming tense one morning, and I was told that I would be staying with my grandparents for the weekend, since it wasn't a good idea to leave me home alone when I couldn't hear if something was wrong. I assume they wanted Cole to keep an eye on me and make sure I was okay, but he made it clear that he didn't care about me or what happened to me. Cole and I haven't seen each other since he moved out. My mom has asked a few times if we've met up or anything, and I've always been honest and said no. She finally asked me 2 or 3 weeks ago if things were good between Cole and me, and I told her that it was evident that he never wanted us around and was not interested in having a good relationship with me. She said she really believed that had changed once we got closer and brought up how he took American Sign Language more seriously. I told her it was clearly for his friend, not for me. She was clearly shocked, but brought it up again over the weekend, telling me that she thought I was very naive to think Cole didn't learn American Sign Language for both of us, and that his initial resistance didn't mean he didn't grow to love me. I told her that she was the naive one to expect him to magically change out of nowhere. I also told her that if she wanted to be married to Tom so badly, it's fine, but she should accept that it wasn't perfect for me, and her claim that I'm naive about Cole shows how much she wants to overlook. Mom was not cool with what I said and told me that I didn't need to hurt her feelings. Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. They didn't leave you alone for a couple of days at 16 years old because you couldn't hear if something was wrong? What are they going to do when you want to move out? Are they aware that deaf people live on their own, hold jobs, get married, raise kids? Plus, sorry, but if your mom heard him say he didn't give a damn about you at 17 after 7 years of living together and still thought he'd magically become a loving brother, she is the naive one. Comment 2. Not the idiot. She told me I didn't need to hurt her feelings. Then stop freaking talking. If you're not going to accept the answer, then don't ask the question. If you're happier ignoring something, then ignore it. Don't ask multiple questions about it. Stop expecting everyone around you to go along with the lies you tell yourself. Now for the update. I'm 22, deaf, and my mom is still trying to set me up with my stepbrother. A few weeks after our last convo, I got a text from Cole inviting me to his high school graduation party. I was honestly a little surprised since we hadn't spoken in years. The last time we interacted was when he and his dad moved out after his parents' divorce. I debated whether to go or not. My mom encouraged me, saying it was an opportunity to mend things with Cole. I wasn't so sure about that because I didn't think Cole was interested, but I decided to go anyway. After all, it might be worth seeing if anything had changed. The party was at a community center, where his mom rented a big room. The atmosphere was filled with laughter and celebration, and there was a lot of food. Cole was surrounded by his friends. When I arrived, he barely acknowledged me, just giving a quick nod before returning to his friends. I felt so out of place, standing awkwardly near the snack table while everyone else mingled. I was a little surprised that no one else tried to talk to me. I was just standing there in my own world, looking out for anyone who might want to have a conversation. Then I saw Tom, my stepdad, coming towards me. He gave me a warm smile, and we chatted a bit. He asked how I was doing, since it had been a while. I told him I was doing okay, and he said he was glad to hear it. During our conversation, he mentioned how proud he was of Cole and how much he had grown. I nodded along, even though I felt a little uneasy. I noticed Cole's friends making fun of him for not having a date. He took it pretty well, laughing along with them, but I could tell he was a bit uncomfortable. Feeling uneasy and out of place, I decided to grab some fresh air outside the venue. While outside, I bumped into Cole, who seemed surprised to see me alone. We exchanged a few words about the weather, but it felt forced and shallow. I asked if he was excited about going to college, and he said he was looking forward to it. After a pause, he mentioned he wanted to keep in touch, but I felt skeptical about his sincerity. The party eventually moved inside, where speeches were given. I sat down to listen. Cole's mom gave a heartfelt speech about her pride in Cole, which felt bittersweet to me. After the speech, he was surrounded by friends, laughing and celebrating while I felt invisible. As the party wound down, I noticed a girl approach Cole and hug him tightly. I overheard her asking if he was ready for their trip to New York City that summer. This hit me hard. It was a reminder that he had plans that didn't include me. I felt so out of place at that moment. I decided to leave the party early. On my way out, I accidentally bumped into Cole again, who asked if I was leaving already. I simply nodded and said goodbye. Later that week, my mom brought up the graduation party, eager to hear about it. I told her it was awkward. She insisted that I should reach out to him again. I agreed to text him to check in after the party. A few days later, I got a short reply from Cole saying he was busy preparing for college. Around the same time, I learned that my mom had been planning a surprise family dinner for Cole's upcoming birthday. She was so excited and asked me to help with preparations. I reluctantly agreed. On the day of the dinner, I helped cook while my mom set up the dining room. Tom and Cole arrived, and we all gathered around the table. The atmosphere felt a little bit tense, but we tried to make the best of it. During the dinner, Cole received a phone call, excusing himself to take it in another room. Moments later, I overheard raised voices coming from the other room. My curiosity got the better of me, and I peeked through the door, seeing Cole arguing with someone on the phone. I caught bits of the conversation, realizing he was upset about something I couldn't quite catch. After the call ended, he returned to the table looking shaken, but he didn't explain anything. The dinner ended without any significant connection made. I guess my mom's still set on trying to get me and Cole together, but honestly, I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like I'm being pushed into something I'm not even sure I want, and every time we meet, it's just awkward and forced. I get that my mom wants a happy family, but I'm not feeling it. I think I'm just going to avoid any more setups for a while. If Cole wants to reach out on his own, he can. I doubt anything's going to change, but who knows? I'll update if something actually happens, I guess. Edit. A few people were wondering why I decided to attend the graduation party despite feeling unsure about it. Honestly, my mom really encouraged me to go, hoping it would help mend things with Cole. She even offered to pay for my new outfit, which I appreciated since I didn't have a lot of money to spend. I thought maybe seeing him in person could change my perspective, but it just felt awkward and forced like I suspected. I haven't been to many parties, so I wasn't entirely sure what to expect. Am I the idiot for telling my controlling father-in-law to take the house and shove it? Am I the idiot for telling my father-in-law to shove his house offer after he tried to control every detail? My father-in-law is a generous man, but has what he refers to as the jerk gene, meaning that he doesn't stop to consider what anyone else wants in many situations. Since my husband and I have been living with my husband's brother, my father-in-law decided that when the neighbor's house went on the market for a steal, he'd buy us the house. After consulting with his financial planner, the decision was made to have both my father-in-law and my husband on the title deed to the house. We would pay all taxes and utilities, and when my father-in-law passes, my husband would inherit the house. Here's where it gets messy. The house needs a lot of work. Originally, my husband and I were going to be responsible for improvements and repairs, so I started meeting with contractors and getting estimates for the work. My husband doesn't know much about home repair or renovation, and I do. My family has renovated multiple old homes, so he's been letting me handle all the work with the contractors. Even so, my father-in-law will not speak directly to me about anything related to the house. My poor husband has to play messenger, telling me what his dad wants to do, then telling his dad that I've actually got it handled and want to do something different. The final straw came today when my husband relayed to me that his dad has said that any permanent changes to the house that cost more than $5,000 have to be approved by him. Even if we're paying for them, he wants to sign off on all decisions, including tile colors, light fixtures, etc. So I forwarded all of my communication with the contractor we'd chosen, haven't signed anything yet, and said that if he wants to make the decisions, then he can make all the decisions. He will own the house and we will sign a rental lease when the work is done. He'll have to pass city inspections for rental units and abide by all state and local rental law. Now he's mad, and I'm ungrateful, selfish, and controlling. At this point, I don't even want the house anymore. I'm ready to take the cat and go stay with my brother, but I don't actually want to leave my husband. I'm just sick of catering to his dad's whims. One day later, thanks for the gut check, guys. I read through most of your comments, although I didn't reply to most of them. I realize how incredibly privileged we are to be in this position. I never had any intention of doing any work on the house without my father-in-law's approval, but we've already discussed what we were going to do, and he agreed that I should go ahead and find a contractor. Then he changed the rules. I had dinner with my mother-in-law, divorced from my father-in-law, last night to commiserate about what a butthead he can be. She gave me some good advice on dealing with him. The bottom line is that we are not putting a single cent into a home unless we both have a legal stake in it. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. If your husband is willing to let his father treat his wife this way, then your problem is clearly with your husband. Your name isn't even on the deed, but you're expected to do all the remodel work. You do the work, but your father-in-law doesn't like it, so he vetoes it. He vetoes it, but you're not even worth the breath it would take him to talk to you. So he goes through your husband as a messenger. In the end, your husband delivers his dad's message to you rather than telling his dad that he's being a jerk to you and that he won't tolerate you being treated this way. See, you have a husband problem, not the idiot. Comment 2. Not the idiot. The only reason that the house would only be in your father-in-law and husband's name is to protect the house from you if there is a divorce. That is a smart move on their part if you are not contributing to the financing of the house. It would be a smart move on your part to not invest any money into the house outside of paying bills. Your issue is with your husband. If he is going along with this, then you two need to have a serious talk. Is this what you both want? Would you rather just wait and buy a house together in both of your names? What is the underlying issue behind this behavior? Now for the update. A few days after the last update, my husband and I had dinner with my father-in-law at a local Italian restaurant. My husband suggested the place, since we had gone there when we first moved to town. But honestly, I wanted to avoid anything that would remind us of the last time we had been there. The atmosphere was tense, and I could sense that my father-in-law was still frustrated over our previous conversation. When we were seated, it was quiet for a bit, and my husband and I exchanged glances. We both knew that was about to change. During dinner, my father-in-law bluntly asked why we hadn't started renovations on the house. My husband hesitated before explaining our decision to wait until we had legal ownership. We had talked about this a little before. He thought it would be better to just get started on things and make the father-in-law feel involved by asking for his opinion on stuff. But I was wary of that approach. We had already seen how that went. It just excited the father-in-law and made him think he had more control over all of it. This time, I would not be the one to get the father-in-law on board. I wanted him to know that if he wanted to be involved, he would need to step up himself. This time, it was his move. My husband tried to explain this to him, but my father-in-law slammed his fork on the table, drawing attention from other diners. He accused us of being ungrateful and wasting his money. My husband tried to calm the situation, suggesting we discuss it later. But my father-in-law was not having it. He stood up and declared he would take back the offer on the house if we didn't appreciate his help. At that moment, I was just so over the whole thing. I could feel my husband tense up next to me, and I knew he wanted to talk things out with his dad, but I also knew it would lead to more of the same, more of him trying to be the peacemaker. So I just sat there, letting him handle things. We quickly paid the bill and left the restaurant, my father-in-law storming out ahead of us. I could feel my husband's frustration as we walked to our car. He wanted to say more to his dad, to make him see reason. I could tell, but there was nothing more to say. Later that week, I got a text from my husband saying that his dad was refusing to talk to us. He suggested we give him some space, hoping he would cool down. Honestly, I just wanted to avoid the conflict, but I knew that sooner or later we would have to deal with whatever his dad was planning. A few days later, my husband got a call from his mom, who wanted to meet up for coffee. At the coffee shop, his mom revealed that his dad was planning to sell the house to someone else. My husband was stunned. His mom said my father-in-law had made up his mind after the restaurant incident. They discussed my father-in-law's sudden decision. I could imagine my husband feeling helpless, like he couldn't do anything to stop it. He called me, and I suggested we try to negotiate with him again. But my husband was doubtful. A week passed, and my father-in-law still refused to communicate. My husband and I decided to visit him at his home to confront him directly. When we arrived, my father-in-law was cold and unwelcoming, insisting he was busy. We pressed him about the house, but he just repeated that he would do what he wanted. He accused me of manipulating the situation and ruining family harmony. My husband tried to mediate, but my father-in-law dismissed him angrily. I could see the look on my husband's face, the way he looked so hurt by his dad's words. We decided to take a break and went to a nearby diner for some comfort food. While we were there, my husband got a text from his dad saying he had a buyer for the house. Our hearts sank. We realized the situation was more serious than we had thought. We debated our next steps, feeling cornered and overwhelmed. I suggested we speak to a real estate agent, but my husband felt it might escalate things further. We spent the next few days in limbo, unsure of how to move forward. Then my father-in-law announced a family gathering for Thanksgiving, which made me uneasy. At Thanksgiving, the tension was palpable, and my father-in-law made snide comments about our living situation. My husband tried to lighten the mood, but his dad was relentless, bringing up the house in front of everyone. I felt so humiliated as family members exchanged awkward glances. The evening ended with my father-in-law declaring he would finalize the sale of the house next week. To answer a few questions, my husband and I had not signed any paperwork on the house, which is why my father-in-law felt he could sell it. We were only verbally promised the house. We had no idea there was a buyer for the house when my father-in-law announced Thanksgiving. As for my husband and his father, they have had their ups and downs, but this is the first time his dad has been so aggressive and unyielding. Am I the idiot for naming my son after my late mother and not my stepmom? Am I the idiot for naming my son after my late mother and not letting my stepmom have a say? My dad, 62-year-old man, and his wife, 59-year-old woman, Mary, got married 16 years ago. Both were widowed with children. Dad had me, 10-year-old boy then, 26-year-old man now, my sister, 8-year-old girl then, 24-year-old woman now, and my other sister, 7-year-old girl, then 23-year-old woman now. Mary had Jess, 9-year-old girl, then 25-year-old woman now, her son, 6-year-old boy, then 22-year-old man now, and her other daughter, 4-year-old girl, then 20-year-old woman now. Dad and Mary wanted to make a nuclear family and a more traditional family where Mary would stay at home, be the mom to all of us, and Dad would be dad to all of us and work and be the less involved in the day-to-day childcare parent. I never accepted Mary as my parent. I never called her mom. I resent her deeply for asking frequently when I was a child. Jess never accepted my dad either. She feels the same about him that I do about Mary. My sisters call Mary Mama because they called our mom Mom. Jess's younger siblings just called Dad Dad. Jess and I never considered us all a family. We both missed our late parents and would cause chaos by bringing them up sometimes to put the step-parent parent's spouse in their place and remind them that they weren't forgotten. I do this with Dad too, and I would remind him that my mom wasn't replaceable and her place in my life could never be filled by anyone else. I am low contact with Dad and Mary now. Jess had a baby in the last 2 years. She named her daughter after her dad. This upset my dad and Mary. I found out about this a little over a month ago because my wife and I had a son, and his name was my mom's middle name, which she was known as by close friends and family. Mary was hurt that I honored one grandmother over the other. My dad also told me I should have found some way to honor Mary, maybe using her maiden name, etc. They have not met my son, and I did not reach out to them. They reached out to me. They told me Jess doing the same was such an intentional snub against our family and them as parents. Mary told me I should have reached out to her and checked if my decision was okay with her. I should have included her and Dad in this. Dad said the same. I pointed out they are hardly in my life anymore, which is how I prefer it, so I'd never include them. I ignored calls and texts for a few more weeks until Friday. Mary told me this was not how someone treats their mother. I responded that she was never my mother. She was never my real mother, who died when I was still a child. I told her claiming she was part of what made me so distant from them. They both decided to FaceTime me that night and told me I made such a big and hurtful decision without discussing it with them, how Jess had done the same, and they rambled on like that. I told them they're not entitled to a say in the decision-making of adults, even if they raised them. I told them Jess and I do not need their permission, and clearly we don't care what they want. I was called rude, entitled, and ungrateful for having such loving parents. Am I the jerk? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. How entitled do they have to be to try and dictate what you name your own child or children, let alone any other decision in your life, because you're a grown adult and individual? What sickens me more is that as you guys were growing up, your parents tried to replace your late mom or dad and have since then been guilt-tripping and manipulating you. You are doing a great job standing up for yourself. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Your dad and his wife be whinging like fertility and children ended with you and Jess. The other 4 children don't exist or have no chance honoring their names as middles when they have children. Disrespectful is acting like the deceased parents didn't exist and don't deserve anything. Now, for the update. A few weeks after the last family confrontation, Jess hits me up about a family gathering for Thanksgiving. She feels weird about it too, but she still thinks it's a good idea. I'm not so sure. We kind of both agree that it probably won't be the best time ever, but we want to give our dad and Mary a little hope that we might actually want to be a family someday. I'd say it's a pretty low bar to aim for, and honestly, I'm not even sure it's a good idea. But we're trying to keep the peace and all that crap, so we're just going with it. So I reluctantly text our dad and Mary to say that we'll be there. Of course, they insist on hosting the dinner at their house. I'm not super happy about that either, but I guess I can't really complain since I'm the one who said we'd come. Jess confirms she'll bring her baby, and I plan to bring my son. So yeah, we're just gonna roll with this for now. The day of Thanksgiving comes around, and I can't say I'm looking forward to seeing Mary again. Not really a fan of her forced cheerfulness and fake mom vibes. When we get there, Mary greets us with this over-the-top excitement, like she's pretending everything's just fine. I'm not buying it, but I guess I'm supposed to pretend too. Then I notice she's put up these photos of her and my dad with all the grandkids. Like, excuse me, but when did I agree to that? It makes me feel even weirder about this whole thing. Jess arrives shortly after with her baby, and the atmosphere feels about as warm as a freezer. We all sit down for dinner, and my dad tries to make some small talk, but it's just awkward silence with fake smiles. Halfway through the meal, Mary announces she has a surprise for everyone. She brings out this family photo album showcasing moments from their lives together, and I'm like, oh great, here we go. I feel uncomfortable as Mary flips through the pages, pointing out moments I never wanted to remember. Jess tries to change the subject, but Mary insists everyone takes a look at her family memories. Eventually, I just snap. I tell her that the album isn't my family. Jess backs me up, saying we should honor our late parents instead of pretending. She says it's pretty much time that we all get on the same page about that. Mary gets upset and accuses us of being disrespectful and ungrateful, and it just escalates from there. My dad tries to mediate, but seriously, it only makes things worse. So Jess and I decide to leave, taking our kids with us. On the way out, Mary yells after us, calling us entitled. Yeah, real classy. A week later, Jess gets a message from our dad asking to talk. We agree to meet for coffee, hoping to find some common ground. So during the meeting, our dad expresses disappointment over our behavior at Thanksgiving. He insists that Mary has tried hard to be a good stepmother. I feel cornered, trying to explain our perspective, but I feel like he's just not hearing me. It's frustrating. Jess texts me after the meeting saying our dad is upset with us. Ugh. A few days later, Mary sends a group text inviting everyone to Christmas dinner. I just ignore the text because, honestly, it's not worth responding to. Jess feels pressured to attend for the sake of family, even though it's super awkward. On Christmas Eve, I get a call from Jess, and she sounds really distressed. She tells me that our dad and Mary are planning to announce something at dinner. I feel uneasy about what that could mean, and I just know it's not going to be good. So Christmas dinner comes, and the atmosphere is charged with this unspoken conflict, like we're all just waiting for the news. Halfway through dinner, Mary stands up and announces she's pregnant. She's trying to create some new family dynamic, and honestly, I'm just blindsided by the news. My dad is beaming with joy, while Jess looks completely shocked. And me, I just feel this anger bubbling beneath the surface, realizing this complicates everything. I mean, come on, now we're supposed to act like one big happy family? After dinner, I step outside for some fresh air, needing to process the announcement. Jess follows me outside, and we exchange these worried looks. We both know this changes everything, deepening the rift in our family. I decide to leave early with my family because I just know tensions will only escalate. I don't want to be around for that. So yeah, that's where we stand, just trying to survive the holidays and avoid more drama, even though it seems impossible. Edit. Jess and I discussed the timing of our dad and Mary's announcement. We felt it was done to pressure us into accepting the new dynamic, but we're not ready for that yet. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.